What's up, creepers? Welcome to Phin and Bryn's Spoops.
I'm Bryn.
And I'm Phin.
And today we are going to talk about a very spoopy movie.
Z.
Z!
Wait, is that the way Z is?
Yes.
Okay, I'm like making sure on the camera it's good. You're welcome. Quality content.
Z is a Shudder exclusive movie directed by Brandon Christensen.
Very terrifying.
Brandon Christensen also brought a stillborn, and he's with his stillborn writer also, Colin Minahan. This movie came out on Mother's Day this year. Mother's Day. This is an imaginary friend horror movie. Let's see. It's a very short movie, so it's really easily,
Schools.
It's 1 hour and 23 minutes, and it has 5.5 on IMDb. I think it deserves a little bit more than that. It was not bad. It was very scary, actually. It's probably one of the scariest movies we've watched.
Yeah, you gotta scream, like a big scream.
Oh, he's shrieked.
I didn't want, it was so scary at the end, I just didn't want to watch it anymore. I just couldn't.
But we did. We watched it for you.
And I had to suffer.
What do you give it, Phin?
I give it 4 skulls.
You're only going to give it 4 skulls?
Yeah, I ended up, yeah.
I give it 4 skulls as well.
Right. Finally, so I only have to put in like 1 title.
4 skulls, because the end kind of fell apart. But you know what? I forgive it, because I got really scared and had to sleep with the lights on last night.
I actually wasn't planning on sleeping. I was just watching YouTube, and then I magically fell asleep.
It was very scary. This movie stars Keegan Connor Tracy. I love her because she's been a lot of side characters for me for a very long time. She's in The Magicians, and she's also in Bates Motel. Teachers in both. And she was also in Final Destination 2. She is the one that was in the car when the PVC came through the back. And you think, oh, she totally dodged that shit. And then all of a sudden, the airbag blows open and knocks her head back into the PVC. It's one of my favorite Final Destination deaths, by the way. She carried this movie. She was amazing in it. She really rocked it. She was a very good mom. She plays Beth. And she has
Beth.
Yes, she plays
Bethany.
Beth.
Betharoni and cheese.
I think her name was actually Elizabeth, not Bethany.
Macbetharoni and cheese.
It's a family of 3. Her husband.
What's his name? Do you have his name?
Of course, I have his name.
You're
what's her son's name? You know that one.
Josh.
And her husband's name is Kevin. Sorry,
Kevin.
So sorry. I can't believe I forgot the name Kevin. Anyway,
it got so many screams out of me. Oh my god, this movie was spooky. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it if you don't like getting too spooked.
It was very scary, actually. Yeah, it was really scary. It is also, it's playing, I have AMC Plus bundled with Shudder, and it's a Shudder exclusive, so if you don't have Shudder and you see a deal on it, definitely pick it up, because they have been releasing a lot of movies this month, and actually this year, because it seems like horror movies are the only ones that are still churning out material this year. And, well, it makes sense. So, where does it start?
I'm trying to remember where it starts.
It shows the family. Him getting in the car with his friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell them.
He has his he's
His best
talking
friend
to
Daniel, I think.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, Danny.
Yeah, his best friend Daniel.
They call him Danny.
He goes to school every day with. He goes to school with them every day.
He's been hanging out with his new best friend yet? Not yet.
Not yet. No, I don't think so. No. We see his mom lets him go to school with his friend, because his friend's mom drives them to school, and then she always goes over to her mom's house, she's dying of cancer, it seems like, and her sister's kind of avoiding it because she keeps calling, and her sister's like, oh, I'm not coming today, blah, blah, blah. So his mom is going through a lot of trauma. Beth, she's going through a lot of trauma because her mother is dying. And Josh makes up a new friend. Who's this new friend, Phin?
Z.
Z. He starts playing with Z a lot. He starts playing with Z quite a bit. And they notice that, he's got a new imaginary friend. He talks to him when he's playing, and they don't quite know what to do with it. They don't quite know how to handle Z, but they were like, okay, well, let's, let them ride it out. Because most kids, if they have an imaginary friend, they usually eventually grow out of it.
Did I have an imaginary friend?
You did not, thankfully, because I would have freaked me out.
Because you watch too many horror movies?
Yes. She gets called into the office because the school's been having problems.
Move forward a bit. I'm like, you're a bit out of focus, right?
The school has been having problems with Josh. He's 8. And what did they say he's been doing at school?
Vulgar language, hitting other kids, leaving class.
Leaving class without permission and not coming back. And they've been sending home red cards.
And apparently his dad's just been signing them and not telling Beth. And I'm like, I get it if it was just like one kid, but after like 2, you tell.
There was a stack.
Just like 10, a lot. There was a lot.
So he has been suspended indefinitely. Now, as a mother who knows of other mothers whose children have gotten suspended.
What's suspended indefinitely?
They don't know when he's allowed to come back. They usually only give you a 3-day suspension. But this time they're saying they don't know when he can come back. He's going to need to get some help. So she takes him to the doctor, right? Do they take him?
To the psychiatrist.
Yeah, they take him to the psychiatrist, and he's like, maybe you should play with him. And she asks if there's any medication, but her husband is really against putting Josh on medication. Kevin does. He does not want. He doesn't want Josh on medication. Josh is starting to exhibit some very strange, scary behavior.
Well, there was something important there.
Go ahead.
When they're leaving, he says, "Come on, Z," and the psychiatrist person has like a reaction like,
Yes.
Intriguing.
So that night she hears somebody downstairs, right? And she goes downstairs and he's got the knife and the sandwich.
Oh yeah, knife and sandwich. And he's like, he has this like huge knife making a sandwich.
He insists that Z needs to have 2% milk and like all kinds of stuff. But in the middle of the night she hears somebody downstairs and she goes down there and she comes around the corner and Josh is down there making a sandwich with a huge knife. And he's like, Z was hungry. And she's like, you need to go to bed. And so he goes to bed and
she puts down the sandwich. The sandwich is eaten.
Sandwich is eaten
so
the
that's
next
just
morning.
great, you know?
They go to the play zone and she sees, what does she see at play zone?
Oh, so they're playing, they're having fun, and then he's just like, yeah, there's the tubes, and there's a window, and he's like, hi, Mom, and then he crawls to the side, and then you see Z, and he's like...
He's really creepy.
That was the first yell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, first yell.
She tells her husband about it. Like, Phin was like, hey, that's pretty good, like, communication skills there for a horror movie.
And then her husband...
And then I reminded her that her husband did keep all of those red cards away from him.
I'm like, oh yeah.
Her husband's kind of an a-hole. He's kind of gaslighting her. Because she's like, there's something really creepy going on.
He's like, it's nothing at all. I'm not even going to listen to you.
She starts calling around because she wants him to play with other kids his own age. And she starts calling, she's going down this huge list of names, and nobody wants to play with Josh.
Except one.
So she's going down. Hold on. She's going down the list. People are hanging up on her, and nobody wants to play with her kid. And that's heartbreaking. It's so hard as a parent. And so she ends up going to his friend Daniel's house.
Yeah. So they're talking the parents are talking at the table, the moms, and they're talking about
first of all,
Josh, right?
He wants to go.
Oh yeah, he goes.
Is Daniel upstairs?
And then
the mom's like, no, he's sleeping.
And then he still goes up and like wakes him up. And they're just talking and.
Wait. If you want to please go watch this movie.
Yeah.
We don't want to give the scene away. So we are going to be spoiling the rest of the movie after this because this is the 20-minute mark when everything starts to go haywire. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go watch this movie, okay? Welcome back to those of you who went and watched it, and thank you for staying.
So he goes upstairs and the parents are still talking, the moms. What are they talking about? Aren't they talking about Josh?
They're talking about how he's got an overactive imagination.
And then, so they're upstairs, right? And then there's like the stairs, they go up and there's just like a centerpiece. Daniel gets thrown down, and he just like hits the two parts where the railing.
I screamed so loud to see that little boy fall down those stairs like that. It was horrifying. It was horrifying. And I forgot to mention, trigger warning for suicide, guys. Sorry. So sorry. There is suicide talk in this.
Should I put that at the beginning? Edited in?
Yeah, you can just put in like trigger warning suicide. So.
Okay.
That woman, when she's screaming, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," the woman turns around while her son's being loaded into the ambulance. She says, "I never want to see you again. Never want to see you again." And
I don't think it was Josh who threw.
I think it was. I think Z told him to do it.
Do you think he'd be able to?
I think so. I think he just pushed him over the railing. So they go home.
And you could hear him yelling at the bottom.
He's fine. He's fine. Like nothing bothered him. Like
he's just playing with Z.
Just playing with Z. So she makes him lunch because he's playing nicely by himself after he tossed a kid almost to his death. And she decides to medicate him. She has some medication from the psychiatrist. She crushes it up into his milk. He says he doesn't want to take the milk.
Because I bet Z told him that
and she takes the milk. She drinks the milk and we're out of the carton. And she's like, "See, it's fine." So he drinks the milk and he's kind of medicated and he acts kind of like a zombie. But I don't know, because my child is on meds and her husband takes a really hard anti-med stance, which really upset me. It really upset me because there's a lot of kids that need medication, like ADHD kids and stuff like that. And so her taking her husband taking a really hard anti-med stance really upset me. That was the worst part about this movie to me. So, I mean, well, besides the scariness. But
I think that's a good part, the scariness.
Beth. She medicates him and she goes upstairs to his room, and what's on his wall?
There's this big like mural thing to Z.
We'll show you right here. There is a huge picture of Z on his wall that he has colored in. It's very scary looking, and Z is very scary looking. Josh starts vomiting like everywhere, and she thinks that it's a bad reaction to his meds, and Kevin finds out that she's medicated their son, and he just has a freak out about it. So she's at her mom's house after her mom dies, right? Or before her mom dies. The alphabet toy?
Yeah, Z.
So, yeah, she goes over to her mom's house after she dies, and they're cleaning it up and stuff. And she hears this toy that keeps saying, it's like an alphabet toy, like to teach kids the alphabet. And it keeps saying Z over and over. It's like down in the basement. It's really scary.
And then she goes and checks it out.
She finds a tape too, right?
Well, she's down there and she presses the Z and it doesn't work. So that's just great.
Yeah. And she finds a tape in her mom's house, and on the tape it's her at her dad's talking to her when she was little, and it's like her sister's birthday party or something like that, and they're like, "Beth, you need to come on right now," and she turns around and looks at the camera. She's like, "Come on, Z." So Z is actually
Beth's friend,
her imaginary friend.
She goes and she schedules something with the psychiatrist, right?
Well, the alphabet toy starts going off again, and it does that Imagine Z thing.
Yeah, Imagine Z. It says all the letters, and she has to write it down a bunch of different times to see what it says.
Yeah, and it says Imagine Z. And I actually will not say it a bunch of times.
Imagine Z, Imagine Z, Imagine.
Stop. I won't. I don't like it. And she's saying it when she gets into the tub. And she hears something plop.
And the candles will...
the candles
and she's
start
closing her
blowing out,
eyes.
and she closes her eyes and she's saying it. And I hear something plop into the tub.
And she opens her eyes and
Z is sitting across from her in the tub.
Standing over her.
Oh, so scary.
I literally can't. That's when I'm like, we have to stop watching this.
I screamed, and he had like a delayed scream.
I'm like in shock, and then I just...
It was so scary.
Yeah, that's when I'm like, I can't watch this.
So she goes to her mom's house to find answers, and she finds Z plus Beth forever carved into her childhood bed. So her son says, "You saw Z, didn't you?" And then what's he say after that?
He says, that means Z saw you.
He says, "He saw you too."
Oh, heck.
my God. So she calls the doctor and he says, it's happening again.
It's happening again.
Yeah.
Oh, another apparent thing passed on to the child. I wonder where I heard that from.
He says it's happening again, isn't it? Like when you were a child. And she was his patient when she was little because of her relationship with Z. And he shows her a video that he took. It's very Samara-like, you know, she's sitting in a chair and she's got Z sitting in a chair next to her. I mean, it's empty. But the doctor was like, hello, Beth. Hello, Z. And then he goes back to her and he's like talking to her about it. And she goes, don't worry. She's like, I'll be fine when my parents are gone. Because Z says that we're going to get married and have lots and lots and lots of babies. I'm not okay with this. And she realizes that in order for
babies with the Z? Mm-hmm. Nope.
And she realizes that in order for her to get married to Z, she can't be married. And she freaks out, starts trying to call her husband as she's driving home.
Driving.
And Kevin goes upstairs, and he's not answering his phone, and he goes upstairs to check on Josh. And he's in Josh's room, and...
no, he's walking. He's going to go to the stairs and stuff. The Z.
Yeah.
The toy
starts
Z.
doing Z again.
Z. And he goes over, and there's the mural
all
again.
All the lights start lighting up.
Yeah, and then...
all the toys.
Well, the mural's above the Z. Mm-hmm. And the toys start lighting up, and then, like, it's, like, flashing dark. And
the picture's back on the wall after the husband had painted it over earlier.
That was in his room. So we moved, actually. It's like a perfect replica, so...
Yeah, the toys light up, and Z attacks Kevin in the house, we think. We don't know.
No, we know. Because it's like starts flashing and then the eyes glow on the thing and then it's scary because you can see it's like an up close view of Z's face.
It's really scary. When she pulls up to the house is on fire. So she goes running into the house. She finds Kevin's dead body and she sees what happens.
Josh getting dragged in to a room. Josh is getting dragged into the room
and
she's like grabbing and she burns
herself, and she's screaming, please let him go, I'll be with you, please let him go. And he opens the door and she grabs Josh and she runs out of the house.
And she has to be at her mom's house now.
Yeah.
Mom's house, yeah. And then she takes Josh
to Jenna, her sister.
Yeah.
Go on.
She takes... Yeah, and then she goes to the mom's house, and she goes like, was it upstairs or where was it? Like,
in the basement?
No, I thought it was upstairs.
Oh, the dark flashlight, the hide and seek game.
Before that, she's like, imagine Z.
Yeah, she starts calling him,
and he comes there.
Yeah.
They're counting the stairs. I hope so. I heard like stepping. Nope.
Doesn't matter. So, anyways. This is where the movie kind of fell apart for me, but she ends up living at the house, I don't know, for a few days. With Z. And she has to act kind of like a child. She feeds Z, and she watches cartoons with Z, and then he has this, like, little wedding for her. Like, she goes upstairs, and her mom's wedding dress is hanging up for her, and she puts it on.
I'm sure he was holding it, except you couldn't see him.
No, it was hanging on the door.
Really?
The closet door was open,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So she puts it on, and she goes downstairs, and there's a wedding video on, and... she's basically married to Z in his eyes, I guess. And they play floor is lava, and she traps him upstairs, and she calls Jenna, and
Josh is there, but then she's like Jenna's making something, and then Josh is gone.
When she talks to Josh, she realizes Z got out, and she's worried that Z's going to go after her son because he doesn't want to share her with anybody. So she tells Jenna, you have to find him, you have to find him, you have to find him. And now the cops have pulled up to her house because they need to talk to her because they think that she's going to harm herself. Meanwhile, Jenna is running. She's got train tracks right by her house, and she's running out.
And Josh is playing
on the train tracks
with Z,
and she's screaming, "Get off the tracks! Get off the tracks!" And the doctor is outside telling Beth that she made up Z and that she's the only one that can get rid of him because he's in her mind. So she.
Well, it shows them barging in and stuff, and
they go running upstairs
and she's hanging.
She hung herself.
But she has like veins, so she's alive.
Well, you can hear Beth on the other end of the line going, "He's fine, I got him, he's fine, I got him, he's fine."
And then it shows
then it shows Jenna getting giving Josh food, and then she turns around and she's feeding Beth because she's brain dead, or just she's a vegetable from trying to kill herself and failing. And that's the end. It's got such a dark ending because Z's there. Because the little boy says good night, Z. Yeah, and it's really so scary, and you guys have to watch it. Oh my God.
I'm like, I want to die throughout the entire thing just because that's scary.
So, yes, 4 stars. It did fall apart a little at the end. 4 skulls, yeah, sorry.
Failure.
And it did fall apart a little at the end, and I felt like, I don't know, it felt rushed at the end. But also slow. Like, I felt like the time that she was living with Z was too stretched out. So, it was still really good, and I actually suggest go see it, please. I mean, I even say go get a Shudder account to see it. It's so good.
God,
but don't watch it alone in the dark.
You just scared me so bad. Don't watch it alone in the dark.
Right. So we are going to, let me break this for a second, and then we're going to talk about Bly Manor episode 5. So Bly Manor episode 5. Episode 5 was a very important episode.
It's about
Hill House.
Mrs. Gross.
So I was expecting something very revealing in this one, and this one is about Mrs. Gross, Hannah.
Sorry, was I too fast?
No, that's fine. It's about Hannah and her relationship with the house, and she ends up in this weird time loop thing where she's getting confused and she's flipping through time. She's going back to the past when she hired Owen.
Keeps showing like she sees the crack and stuff.
Yeah, she keeps seeing the crack, and this episode is really exhausting because you're trying to keep up with what's going on with Hannah, and she's trying to keep up also, and she's seeing flashbacks to Peter with Rebecca and her catching Peter stealing things and the things that result from that. And I don't want to give too much away because I am not comfortable giving away this show right now because a lot of you guys are still catching up, and I keep seeing things on the internet and it's pissing me off. But it is all about Mrs. Gross, and like I said a while back, I feel like this entire series, this entire season is about control, and I feel like it's the house and puppeteering and the dead controlling the living, and Henry controlling the children, and Edmund controlling Danny, and like it's layered control. And like Jamie says, love is possessive, which is a sort of control also. And we discover that just like in Hill House, spoilers, just like in Hill House, there are members of this household that are dead, and it's upsetting and relieving in some way, because a lot of things are, it feel like, oh, that's why, you know?
Yeah.
That's why she's confused. That's why.
Sorry.
So she's trying to tether herself to the time that she died in, the 1987 time. And she's trying to tether herself to that because she keeps floating around in her life in circles. And the thing that stood out to me was when he said, "You are in 1987. You are Hannah Gross. This is what's happening. You think Flora is 8." Now, because he said, "You think Flora is 8,"
he says everything that's true, and then
everything that's true, and then he says, "You think Flora is 8." I think Flora is dead. Not Miles. Flora. I think Flora is dead because she wasn't at boarding school. She called him home just like Nell's mom did in Haunting of Hill House.
I think Flora's dead.
I think
you think
Flora's
that's why
dead.
she could see all the other ghosts?
Yes. I think Flora is dead, and that's going to break my heart if I'm right. They talk about the glue trap with the mice and people getting, going into the glue, and they say, oh, it's a humane trap, but she found a mouse that had chewed off its own leg and bled to death. And she talks about how the house traps people in the same manner.
Get it? Manor.
So this was a big deal because you find out that not only is Hannah dead, but you do find out that Peter is dead also.
Well, we thought he was probably dead.
We did think he was pretty.
Because he had like his bloody hand, and he was like grabbed.
He is dragged away by the lady in the lake
Yeah.
that we've heard so much about, but we don't know much about yet. So he gets dragged away by the lady in the lake after he was caught stealing some stuff in the house.
And he's like
was planning on stealing more.
Yeah, and then the kids are awake, and he's like, I said guys should go to bed.
He promises Rebecca he'll be back, though, for her.
Yeah.
So she has no idea. She thinks he left and never came back. Because the kids aren't going to tell her that the lady in white dragged him away. She dragged him into the lake. Peter's at the bottom of the lake.
Should I say about
Go ahead.
what happened? So, when he's getting dragged down the stairs and stuff, he's like, let go of me and stuff, and he puts his hand on Miles' shoulder.
I've been saying.
Miles as like an old man.
I've been saying Miles acts like an old man sometimes.
And he possesses
Miles. And Miles is the one that killed Hannah because he was possessed by Peter.
And he shoves
her
down
into the well, and she sees the crack in the well.
At the very beginning was the crack in the well, so that's why she sees the crack everywhere.
Well, the bent neck lady in Hill House was scary and then sad. This was just sad. It was just heartbreaking because Hannah had plans. You know, Hannah wanted more from life, and she can't have that now. And she's just sad and lost now. And Peter's so angry. You know? Peter's so angry because he can't leave, and Hannah is sad because she can't leave. And it's just a heartbreaking story. We didn't see much of Danny this week at all. We didn't see a lot of the kids other than when they had their confrontation with Peter.
Yeah.
So it was a good episode.
Oh, yeah.
A sad episode, too. We're going to be watching episode 6 tonight, and we're also going to be watching Halloween, too. So catch up with us tomorrow, and like and subscribe, and go vote. Go vote. If you can vote, go vote. Okay.
I can totally vote.
Like and subscribe, people. See you guys later. Bye, creepers.
See you next time.